Welcome to Uncorked and Unscripted, the podcast and video series that gives you VIP access to the unscripted stories of people I've met through events. In this episode of Uncorked and Unscripted, entrepreneur and business coach John Meyer goes unscripted to discuss passion projects, the power of community engagement, and how social media has evolved over the years. Now uncork your favorite beverage and listen up as we spend the next half hour unscripted. Hello and welcome back to Uncorked and Unscripted. I'm your host, Addie Graham Kramer. I'm excited to have my dear friend, John T. Meyer, otherwise known as JTM, with us today. JTM, welcome to the show.
Hey, good to see you. It's been a little while.
It has been a while. We have done so many different things over the years together. We were talking, our producer and I, just a few minutes ago about all the events, how we first met. Gosh, it sounds like we're going on a first date, but we're not going on our first date. But like this,
we've shared a lot of microphones.
Microphones. We've shared office space together.
Yeah. Good part. It goes way back. Yeah.
Stages. I mean, all the things. So today we are going to just take things back to, I think we met in 2010. Does that sound about right to you?
Yeah,
2010-ish?
Meso must have opened like 11 or 12, but we probably met before that.
Probably prior to that, but
yeah.
So for those that do not know JTM, he wears white pants all year. Little side joke from all of our emceeing days, but we've done a lot of things together, from 1 Million Cups to 437 Project to runways. I mean, there's been so many things that we've been involved in, but for those that don't know you, why don't you just share just a little bit about yourself with our guest today?
Yeah. Grew up in South Dakota, Brookings kid, went to college in Northeast Iowa, studied communications, which I always joke is short for I don't know what I want to do with my life. Started my career up in corporate in Minneapolis, only made it 11 months. My dad said, stick it out for a year. And then my story kind of in the Sioux Falls area starts in June of 2009. So about 15 years ago, my brother and I got a grant through the state of South Dakota. So it's an economic development grant. And you had to start your business in South Dakota and somehow involve technology. So we moved back, decided Sioux Falls versus Brookings, and became an entrepreneur in 2009. So like, just telling this to my wife, Paige, it's like, I felt for like a long time I was always like the young person in the room, and now I'm just realizing I'm not the young person in the room anymore.
You know, when I started our company, I shared this story with some people, like you, because you're 40? No, 39?
38, almost 39.
See,
yeah.
Okay. So I'm a little ahead of you, but I remember when I started my company, I was 33 years old, and I kept thinking, my gosh, I'm so old. Like, look at the John T. Meyers out there, like starting their companies. And I kept thinking, but now you're in that spot of, you're like,
I got some gray here.
I feel like I'm a little older.
It feels like the stakes go up, right? Like there's more, like, I don't know, like when you're in your 20s, it just feels like anything you do is a win because you're there and you're showing up and you're trying, and people expect you to fail, right? Now I feel like the expectations are higher, which is good. That's how it should be.
So you started this tech company, and
we started this thing called 9 Clouds. And the idea was like, I think South Dakota businesses don't know how to use social media. And like, to timestamp this, we're talking Twitter was a brand new thing. People were like, what's a Twitter? And Facebook had just got off of college campuses. YouTube was this super untapped potential. Like, I joke, like, this is the era where, you know, like, Sioux Falls Canaries were on Facebook with like first name Sioux Falls, last name Canaries.
Oh yeah, There's still some of those out there. I know it. They are,
because you couldn't be like a page at that time, and that was like the hack to get around it. And so we were like, oh, we should probably we could teach businesses how to do this. And now when I tell young entrepreneurs, it's like anytime your business has to teach before you can sell, it's just a slog, right? And so we were just almost a little early. And then of course, layer on that, we were bad entrepreneurs. We were like, we'll set up your social media for $200 a month. And we would drive to Brookings to upload a picture of a margarita for the Ram Pub, for $200 a month. Like, we were losing money on gas. And so I just think it was a good time to start. We learned a lot. And from that kind of like, we'll do anything that's digital experience is what bred the second company, which was Lemonly. And so Amy was my business partner and first employee. And we said, what if we just did one thing really well? And that one thing became infographics. And so that became Lemonly, ran that company for a decade, grew up to about 21 employees, and then sold that in 2021. And
now you've been really focused on not only business coaching, but Leadership South Dakota, really invigorating and giving back, I would kind of say, to the business community that gave to you, but also helping to develop these leaders as well throughout a lot of different avenues, right? Talk a little bit about that.
100%. Yep. So my 2 gigs are a coach, like young versions of myself, basically.
Yeah.
I guess it doesn't have to be young in terms of age, but like that starting
That
out
started,
entrepreneur
yeah.
who they know what they're doing, but they need that nudge. They need that accountability. They need that cheerleader on the days that it's really hard and you want to
Mhm.
quit, which is still happens.
Yeah.
And then, Leadership South Dakota is really like an awesome passion gig where I feel like not only one, do I get to better learn my own state that I grew up in, but my network has really expanded across the state, which has been a joy. I was kind of an eastern between Brookings and Sioux Falls was most of
Mhm.
my network, and there's just
A
South Dakota is a
lot.
special place, and there's just such this because you
Yeah.
guys travel
Yeah,
all
yeah, yeah.
over it. There's just so many great people in this state. So,
And I will say I had an event just recently with Rick Melmer, and he and I were
oh
just
yeah,
yeah, first of all, a legend, right?
yep,
And
yep,
for you to follow in those footsteps is such an honor, I know, for you, but it's also an honor for the organization as well to have such a passionate and energized leader such as yourself. And you've got a
thank
great,
you.
solid team to be able to do it. But I had the opportunity to participate in one of the sessions with Leadership South Dakota.
Yeah,
And I will tell you, the energy is electrifying in that space. And I know, and maybe that's how it is all the time. I don't know. But I will tell you, they are so excited to learn. They're excited to be together. But there's also this inherent unification of people that have come together from all different walks of life
yeah.
that I think is really cool that Leadership South Dakota does. Did you go through the program prior to? I can't
Yeah, I
remember.
did.
Yeah.
So I'm an
Okay.
alumni in
Okay.
18. That was a
Okay.
4th class. And so
Has the
big,
energy
big high
always been like that?
regards for Rick. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's like the one program where like you will laugh, you will cry,
Yeah.
you'll share something that you never thought you might share. And with people you would never even think you'd probably hang out with, like
Sure.
from Rapid City to Sioux Falls and everywhere in between. And so kudos to Rick for building such a
Yeah.
great thing. Which I know what it's like to hand off your baby, and so I felt like a
Yeah.
really high pressure to like don't mess this up.
Yeah.
But it's also been rewarding to now kind of put my own spin on it too, and start
Good
to
for you.
see what it evolves for the second decade. So you're right, Rick is a legend and
A legend.
just beloved by so many, and his wife too. Valerie is
Yeah.
like secretly like the key part of the program. So that was a key part for me is like, how do we find that piece? And that's why it's fun to like have a longer career now and have, like known you for a long
Yeah.
time. So I rekindled with an old lemon head and brought Morgan on the team. And so
Yeah. She's
Morgan kind
awesome.
of serves as that role. So
How do you feel that he's a coyote, though?
he's a coyote. He's a Yankees fan. He's a big baseball
I
guy.
know.
We always talk about
I
baseball.
just love it.
I think my aunt Becky Blue once told me like you should have a friend every decade, right? So you should have a friend in your
Oh,
20s,
yeah.
your
Yeah. Yeah.
30s, your 40s. And so
That's
like
awesome.
Rick is sort of like this like bonus father figure / mentor / friend in his
It's
60s.
incredible.
Yeah.
We just
So,
had him speak in front of 915 educators just
oh
recently
yeah,
through the Department of Education and did such a
cool.
tremendous job. I mean, he has had such an impact on the lives of so many in that room.
That space for
So, I
sure.
mean, just the line, just to even talk to him after the event, you would have thought it was Bruce Springsteen, but
That's
he was
awesome.
just, it was phenomenal. But yeah, he's great. So you're doing a
Love
great
that.
job. Yeah, good for you. But
Thank you.
before we dive further in, because our podcast is called Uncorked and Unscripted, I want to know, like, if you were a beverage, what would your beverage be, and why? Like, what would be the definition of John T. Meyer as a beverage?
Hmm.
We ask every guest this, so
I think I might go with my favorite, like the beverage I consume the most, which is the lime bubbly water. If you're familiar with
oh
bubbly,
yeah, is that
I don't
what they
know who
used to
makes
call it,
that, but
buble? Right? They were like joking with the
it kind
buble,
of looks
right?
like that.
Yeah, yeah.
I think I'm proud, like by all measures and circumstance, I'm pretty like vanilla person, right? Like my name's
Yeah.
John. I'm a white dude who grew up on a cul-de-sac in Brookings, South Dakota. Like that screams water. But then it is like there's a little bubble in there. There's a twist of lime. Like it's very
Good.
drinkable. Like I think I'm easy to be around. I think I say that my superpower is to help others believe they're capable of more. And
Hmm.
like sometimes water is just a little like water. You got to spice it up there with a little bubbly.
I love it.
So I'll go with that
What a
as
good
my
answer.
answer.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
I didn't know that was coming, but
Yep. There you go.
and I've done like the 75 hard thing where you don't
Yeah.
drink for 75 days and
Yeah.
try to mix it up a little bit. It's like sometimes you need something a little more kick than just water.
Well, speaking of 75 Hard, you've got a lot of passion projects that I have had the opportunity to follow and just observe over this decade plus. And I want to dive more into that today. I love the entrepreneurship side of you. You and I go way back when it comes to some of those things, and from event after event with 1 million cups and other things that I've roped you into doing over the years.
Vice versa.
I know. But I want to know so much more from the passion side, and I know our viewers do as well. But from the 75 Hard, tell us though what you're all doing here on your Peloton app every single day.
Oh.
Like so the goal is, right? Like fitness is you're very passionate about fitness in a lot of different respects of your life or aspects of your life. I think it drives you in so many different ways. It drives your family. I know Paige and pickleball, all the things, right? With the girls too. But how did that start? Like what? You're a goal person.
Yeah,
So, I mean, how did this tracking of every day, tell us like how that all started?
Definitely a goal person. And I think what I learned from studying a lot of other people I admire, friends, leaders, is I think fitness, at the end of the day, it's discipline, right? Like whatever gives you the discipline. I find that like successful people, there's so many ways to be successful, but when you dig underneath their stories, usually some element of doing the work exists, right? Like this idea of an overnight success just isn't true. Like even though it seems like somebody came out of nowhere, they were doing something for a decade behind the scenes. And so I love this idea of like daily work and discipline. And I call that the better everyday philosophy. And so what I found is that like fitness just, it gives you sort of a tighter feedback loops than business. Cause sometimes like it might take a year before you can really decide if your business idea is good or not. And did you do all the work? And did you, like, was it the right market and the right, the way you're messaging? Fitness, like it'll tell you quick. And there's a lot of metrics, right? It could be a scale, or it could be your VO2 or your body, whatever. But like, and so I liked when I became a dad, I realized, okay, I have to if I want to exercise, I also have to learn how to love it. And so I kind of made exercise my hobby, was able to combine those two things. And so I think Jesse Itzler calls this the misogi. Okay. This idea of like one big challenge each year. It's a Japanese word that means like one event that you put on your calendar. You would like this, and it sort of defines your year. And so it could be a day, it could be a couple days, but so the last several years I've tried to have a misogi. So like COVID year, I did 75 Hard, and then I did his event, the 29029, like hiking up Mount Everest. 437 project. And so this year's misogi is just exercise every single day. Okay. Through the 437 project, Kelly Marshall as a friend, and she has run something like, I don't know, 3 years in a row every single day. And like
crazy.
Even after she finishes a marathon, she runs that next day. And I really admired that. And like just that steady, don't miss a beat, no travel holiday, sick or not sick. And so that's the challenge this year. And I do wonder, like, I'm sure people are super sick of me talking about I worked out again today on social media, but I have this theory that like it's our goal to basically become the best version of ourselves, and then share that person with the world. Because I do think I've had a few moments, not a ton, but a few moments where someone's like, oh, I needed that today. Like, thanks for the push. Or like, I'm going to get up there. Like, what are you doing? Tell me more. And so that's what I use social media as, like a megaphone to hopefully inspire people.
And a little bit of an accountability for you.
Yeah, totally.
Right? I mean, from that side. I mean,
I have another buddy who's doing the same thing, and then I see his post. I'm like, crap. He's already done.
I think last night, so we were up late with the boys. Why we were up past midnight, I have no idea. But I saw you posted like 2 minutes prior to me even checking.
Oh yeah, last night was on the bed the bike at like 11 p.m.
Yeah, on the bike late.
I was watching the finals, and I kind of was like doing that, and then I was like, oh crap, got to go ride the bike.
But I mean, I think it also is a display though for your family, for your community, that people, I think some will make excuses. I know I have. I know you have excuses as well. But I think this also puts it into perspective where it allows us to say, no excuses. These are my goals. This is how I'm going to communicate. And you're not doing it to inspire people. You're doing it for your own purposes, right? I always say the other value, if it happens, it happens, right?
Yeah. Like be a lighthouse, not a tugboat, right? Like you're not gonna pull your kids along to go and go to the gym and work out with you. But when they see mom doing it, they're like, dang, mom's awesome. Like she's getting after it. Like if I want to be good at my sport or my craft, I probably should do the work.
Will and I, so my oldest Will is 14 now, and Calvin is 11. So we talk a lot about sometimes at home, like, what did you deadlift today? What's your leg press like? And now it's hard because mom can't lift as much as now the 14-year-old boys are lifting or doing leg press. But when we're comparing those numbers, it does inspire each other to just push harder and be better and do things differently. Versus just sitting on the couch or playing video games or doing whatever. So I'm a big believer in the sharing. How cool is that?
That like Will can talk to his friends how much his mom deadlifts. Like that's pretty badass. Crazy?
I did do a leg press the other day of 360 pounds. So I was pretty pumped about leg pressing that. But he's like, Mom, I did like 390. So it's a competition in the household though as well. But it's fun.
I've been known to skip leg day a time or two with my little chicken legs, but
it's a lot of fun though. It's fun. Do you get involved with like some of the pickleball stuff? Because Paige, you have an active family, which I love. And I know I watch her do a lot of different things. She's doing tournaments with pickleball. Are you getting involved with pickleball too?
I like it. And there was a window there where I could, like, my athleticism was allowed us to at least be on a close plane. She probably will disagree if she listens to this, but now she is much better than me and I can't keep up. But she was a high school tennis player. So I think the beauty of pickleball is like your growth curve happens pretty quick.
Yeah.
Like you play a couple times, you can get better quickly. Yeah. It's that final like 10, 20% that's really hard. And I've just decided to let that be her thing. Like, so she has a thing and then I can have a thing.
Yeah, I love it.
And so, yeah.
Do the girls play with her?
They haven't really done that yet. We've been doing the Sioux Falls little track meets, which are a lot of fun. And then Paige was a swimmer. So now our girl, Margot's on the Sioux Falls swim team. So that's all new to me. I'm learning about that.
Wow, fun.
And now she's really ready to get them into the Olympics. Like we watched Olympic trials yesterday.
I love it.
And these guys and the girls, oh my God, they're so crazy fit. It's incredible.
Well, I am not a pickleballer. For Mother's Day, that's the one thing. So Calvin and I like to play tennis. We're not any good. We just like to go play and have fun. Cool. And it's something that Calvin and I can do. Will has absolutely no interest in tennis or pickleball. But I said for Mother's Day, that's one thing that I thought we could all do together. So for Mother's Day, they bought me a pickleball set and we've been having a lot of fun. Yeah, Calvin practices almost every night in the garage and he's hitting it up against the wall. And yeah, he's actually better than I am. But you're right. Like, I think it's an easy sport to be able to catch on. But also to just, the growth part of it is definitely
I think
there.
We're going to see.
It's fun.
I don't know why we wouldn't have college pickleball, right? Like eventually, it's it's an affordable sport. It's like pretty easy to grasp. You don't have to have, you can play it in a city, you can play it in a rural town. And so like, I don't know why we wouldn't. Like, I know it feels kind of fatty right now. Like it's just a trend, but I don't think it's going anywhere, but
we'll see.
Yeah. Pickleball in the Olympics. That'll probably be the next thing.
From not me, please. I am not going to get to the pickleball in the Olympics. I can tell you that right now, but it would be cool.
Maybe leg press.
So another thing that I want to dive into and just unpack a little bit is I know that I, as a friend, get you into a lot of different things, and I would say yes to you as well for various instances. But why do you say yes to some of the projects that I present to you? Is it the passion behind the mental health and mental health awareness and suicide prevention with 437? Is it from the Dairy Dash side of things? Is it the running aspect of it with the kiddos? Like we've worked with the style show and the runway. Is it some of those things with the mission there? Like what? Like tell me about your passions and the mission behind that. Like is it? Why do you say yes to those pieces? Truly, is it? I mean, not because it's me, and I get that, but I want to know the real passion behind it. Have you personally been affected by a suicide or any mental health pieces from a family side or friend or like? I just want to know your why behind your doing some of these things.
Yeah, you bet. I think it's multi-layered, right? So it's like the easy answer is like, who are the people behind these projects? So it could be you and the event company, someone like Kendra and the runway. Mayor Paul reached out to me about 437. So like, I just really admire people who say, I have a vision for something and we should make it a reality. Like that's even fun with Leadership South Dakota.
Yeah.
I get to kind of mix in the people that I think are really cool and bake them into the program, yourself included, someone like Dr. David O'Hara. When we brought the class to Sioux Falls, we went and heard the Midtown Coffee radio hour. Like I just love like this group of people are like, we want to perform and in a town like Sioux Falls, you can just build it. Right. And so I'd say the easy answer is like, who are the people behind these things? Because by supporting the things, I'm supporting the person, right?
Yeah.
So that's a big one. Specifically to 437, I would say, to be honest, like it probably sounds a little harsh at first. It was like the physical challenge. I was like,
Yeah.
that's interesting. Can I do this? Could I run
Yeah.
across the state of South Dakota? And I kind of was like, yeah, this seems like a good cause. And I will say, and I've said this on record, but by the end of the project, I now believe it's like the cause. I
Mm-hmm.
believe it is like,
Yeah.
and the team said this, like, does anybody have someone you're running for?
Mm-hmm.
And last year I didn't. And now I do. This year I do. And so a mentor of mine, really the person who I'm an entrepreneur because of this person, somebody in Decorah who was a local entrepreneur I went to college. It's no longer with us anymore.
Mm.
And so I think, it's something that's
Very
more so
personal
bubbled
now.
and inside and grown.
Yeah.
And so, uh, and probably like an entrepreneur, I know how hard it is. You've done this for so many people to get things off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And so like 437 on the outside probably looks like this big fancy thing. But on the inside, it's just a scrappy group of people putting stuff
Right.
together. An event company helped out and
Yeah.
the committees helped. So it's like anything I can do to help push this boulder forward too, right? Like that's
Mm-hmm.
how I feel about Leadership South Dakota. It's like I want Margot, my 8
Yeah.
year old, she's not even 10, to be able to be in this someday. I won't be leading it, but like,
Right.
like I want it to be there. So I think that's a big part of it too, is like I just really have a lot of respect for the creators and the builders. And I sometimes think, is Sioux Falls, am I kind of doing like are we all big fish in a small pond? Like, I don't know, maybe, but I just think
Mm-hmm.
in Sioux Falls, you really can see your work. You can see your impact. If you went to a New York or Chicago, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know, not sure. And
And
so,
and building, I mean, but by you integrating yourself into the mix, so you're also part of building what
yeah,
those things
yeah,
are as well, too. So you're also leaving kind of your name in that mix.
yeah, yeah, you hope that like when you join a project or a board or MC an event, that
Mm-hmm.
you are in some way shaping it
Mm-hmm.
positively. Um, And so like I think that goes back to my cheerleader sort of nature of just like, yeah, I'll put my force
Mm-hmm.
behind this, whether it be energy, time, social media, whatever it
Yeah.
is, because I support it. Um, Paige and I were just having this conversation recently, and then I think Jody just wrote about this topic of like community engagement,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
it's down, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's down
Mm-hmm.
across the
Yeah.
country,
Right.
and this idea of like Howard Schultz from Starbucks, your third place. Like, where's your third place, right? And
Right.
between remote work and hybrid, like a lot of our places have collapsed
Right.
and combined, and I think that this because you do events all over the country. Like Sioux Falls is a pretty special place,
Mm-hmm.
and the desire to volunteer, to write checks,
Right.
is high, but still like not. It's still at risk, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
there's still
Correct.
it's still a danger of disengagement, and so like where's the line between I don't want to be a person, I probably have been this person sometimes where you overcommit and can't follow through on all of the
Mm-hmm.
things you said you would do, but then still be in the game and be involved. And then to your last point, like there's certainly I want my kids to see that. Like
Yeah.
we've made community a priority. I don't care if they live in Sioux Falls, but wherever they live, like
Mm-hmm.
invest in your community, right?
Yeah.
So
One thing that I think you and I both have in common is having our kiddos as a part of events. I mean,
yeah,
your girls and my boys both have been at so many of our events. And I think it's important for them to see the value of community, what not only just a give back looks like, but how do you get involved? And whether it is like the time, the talent, the treasures, whatever it happens to be, but also like we can have fun while we're doing it, right? And
yeah,
that's where that
yeah,
engagement piece comes. And I think that's the fun part that I enjoy seeing. Even they may not want to be a part of it. And I know your girls were at the fashion show this year, which was so fun, and
yeah. We
they've
brought
been
them.
at
Yeah,
our Dairy Dash. But I think showing them the power of, again, it's similar to what we talked about with Leadership South Dakota, this unification of people together for one purpose, for one cause. And it might be just one night, it may be spanning over a few days, whatever it looks like. I think that's the cool part of the beauty of seeing like how our communities get to be as special as they are because of these things, and how we can be engaged individuals. You don't necessarily have to be a leader, but you're carving your own path. And I think that's the fun part about having our children, our families as a part of these events. It just
yeah,
means so
100%.
much more, so much more.
And I think one thing if anybody's listening to this, I would urge you to like tell the people who do these projects and these events and in these races, like tell them what it means to you, right? Like give them your
Mm-hmm.
feedback, because I
Yeah.
think we often, the metrics that we get a little sometimes too worried about the metrics of success being like how many dollars raised,
how many people were there,
how many
all this stuff.
followers were there, how many attendance. And really, I feel like if you walk away and you change one person's life, like it's probably worth it, right? Like, and I think we just have to be the type of people, if you're on the receiving end of that, to say that, like, this was so great, thank you for doing this. Like, my daughter saw this, or now my daughter knows that I too can wear adaptive clothing and like someday be in a fashion show. Like,
so cool.
I know a young girl that was there who I think will be in it someday, because, and that's like that, seeing yourself in those roles, I think, is so huge. And so
it's the inspirational, it's the aspirational, it's all those pieces that all come together.
And I think when it comes to your world of events, I'm sure people do want to know, like, how much do we raise and how many people, like, those things matter. But like, if you're going to do something, do it up nice, do it right. That's why I love, also, I know if I'm going to do a project with you guys, like, it's going to be great. And I can show up and read a script that's ready and or not read the script, because I probably don't do that. But like,
oh, too funny.
So,
gosh, we didn't have scripts when we did 1MC. We had no script.
Oh gosh,
How is
probably
it?
Good that like cell phones weren't quite as good back then. I don't know if I want all that video out there.
Oh my gosh. How is it emceeing with your wife? Do you both do it frequently, I think, right? I mean, I've seen you a few different times out there. Like, do you enjoy it? Like, is it fun? Is it nerve-wracking? Is she bossy? Are you bossy? Like, tell me the vibe.
I'm not bossy. It's fun. Yeah. We try to like do it a couple times a year, or like maybe once a year.
Yeah.
We've done MB, which was great. Tribute was, I think, the first time we ever did it.
Yeah.
And then we've done the runway a couple times. We told Kendra like probably 3 is the right amount. Like, we don't want to like like
get these people off the runway.
I won't say the name, but we could think of probably who's been out there maybe too many times. It's just fun. It's fun to like, I think we have different personalities. I think we're probably a classic like opposites attract.
Yeah.
And so I think it works. And I know this is such an overused word in the internet, but like, I do think I'm pretty much the exact same person on a stage of 500 versus like you and me having a coffee.
Yeah, agree.
And I try to be authentic. And so
agree.
I think it's a little glimpse into, I guess, maybe what our marriage or what our life looks like.
Yeah.
So it's fun to do.
Yeah. I mean, she's structured, which is great. And I think she brings that
you can't take the TV out of her sometimes.
which is good.
Which just makes her a pro. Like, she's a true pro. And so,
but I think she wrangles you where needs to be for the night.
That's right.
For sure, which is good. But
I'll accept that for sure.
What is next for you? I know you've got 437 coming up here. You obviously are tracking all the stuff that you're doing. You are launching into some of this kind of educational space, so to say. Should I say that kind of?
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, I don't know how you.
I call it my gateway product. I've really dug into like these coaching businesses, and I've built a couple $1 million agencies, and that's been super rewarding because I love building teams. But the game of the agency game is like, sell a lot of work, hire people to do the work. And so now the challenge is like, could I build $1 million coaching business? And I know I can, because I've seen a lot of people do it. I'm not there yet, but so that's kind of the new challenge, is like, how lean and mean could you build this thing? And how much impact can I make? How many people could I help? And so what I found right now, my sweet spot person is this like probably solopreneur, creator, consultant, 100 to 500K. Okay. They wear all the hats. And so they're probably tapping out and like feeling really overwhelmed. How do I make my business more of a machine? If I took a week off from vacation, it just stops. Yeah. And you don't have to be that person. Like, I used to be that person. Right. Amy and I were those people. You saw us there then, and we just kept throwing people at the problem, which kind of inevitably worked for us at Lemonly. But so that's the person I want to coach. And what I found is that person likely needs to find a way to kind of clone themselves or multiply their time. And so that's where I created this little VA course. It's hard. Like, I've like this whole info product thing. Like, sales are not great, I will say that, but like, I know it's worth doing because I know my customer needs it. And so whether it be sort of like a lead in to the coaching, or it becomes a book, or I'm not sure yet. I'm very much like a kind of build in public, and I wouldn't claim to know exactly what this looks like. I think people didn't believe me after I sold Lemonly when they asked like, what are you going to do next? And I just didn't have a fixed plan. I don't think people believed me. I mean, I ended up trading NFTs for a while. So, I think
good for you.
I didn't have a plan,
Yeah.
and I think that's okay. And hopefully being honest about that would inspire someone else that, like, if you feel stuck, like, move on. It's okay if you don't know what the path looks like yet. So
do you feel like when you're, because Dan, you coach with, or Dan is one of your
Dan
coaches.
is my coach. Yep.
And so do you feel like, I mean, you've learned a lot, and even from me reading his book and just even being on the one session with him, I mean, he's incredible. My goodness. But do you feel like, is that who you aspire to be from that side, or more one-on-one? Like, I'm trying to paint the picture in my head of like what that, and maybe you don't know what that part looks like. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, that's probably always been my Achilles heel, is like, I always say I like to go a mile wide and inch deep. I'm kind of a generalist. I like to learn about a lot of things. These coaches that really excel probably go pretty deep into like a niche and a thing, almost where you can like use a word to describe these people. I don't have that word yet, and so I'm still trying to figure that out. I also think, again, people don't believe, like, people are like, oh, I'll say that I'm coaching. They're like, oh, that's cool. So like, what are you going to do next?
Yeah.
And so I think still people don't believe me. And I don't know, like, it's this right now. This is the thing. Right. And even with Leadership South Dakota, I think people have been like, well, how long will you do it? And it's like, until I don't want to do it. Right.
Good
like,
for you. Yeah. No.
And right now I love it. And so I think that's a good enough answer.
Well, and I think from my side too, I mean, the power of social media, you do such a phenomenal job in social media. I think it's just you've such a hub of knowledge for so many people, whether it is fitness, whether it is involvement in the community, projects that you're a part of. I mean, all of the things really. So I think the power that you have built through social media will, whatever you happen to do, I mean, will be such an extension into this next path or next journey for you, in my eyes anyway, because your content, it's motivating, it's inspiring for people to see, but also you're real with it. And just like what you said before, like whether you are in a coffee with one person or 500 people, like you're you. And that's, I think, one thing that why we've resonated so well over the years together. It's just, you're very genuine and real with it, but that comes across through social media as well.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I think I'm still I feel pretty old and kind of novice at the tactics when I look at like someone like Maddie Pashong is someone I admire, and like, she just crushes. She's so good, aligned with both like strategy and who she is. And so like, I'm always trying to like, or DMing and like trying to like ask her for tips. And, but yeah, I believe in the power. And back to like 09, 10. I mean, I like sometimes look at these YouTubers who have blown up and they're like, I started my channel in 2015. I was like, I had one in 09, but I just never stuck with it. Right. Like, I've been creating, I'm very long on the power of building a brand and like kind of accumulating this social capital. I don't really don't really know what I'm going to use it for. Like, I don't have any announcement. I'm not running for mayor or anything like that.
Not yet.
But I just think being in the game and helping people, it seems like a good, like, I just want to be remembered as like, oh yeah, he helped me one time, or he nudged me one time, or he inspired me once.
What's your preferred method of communication? Is it Insta? Is it Threads? Is it like where, like, just for people, like, just in general to follow you, like, where's your like from a content? I mean, like, my customers
probably on LinkedIn, so I'm trying to do a little bit better there. What I love about Instagram, and this is more tactical, but the speed that you can go from content to like direct message. So like, most of the coaching clients I've sold that way. It's called sell by chat. And so like, I post content, you like or comment it, I hit you up and be like, hey, what did you like about that? Do you have a business? How can I help you? And so that is pretty seamless. So like, it's very much like, I love that type of sales work, like in the trenches, one-to-one, like, just sales just becomes a numbers game, right? Like, I don't have any big fancy hack that gets me. I don't have tens of thousands of followers, but so I do like Instagram that way. That's probably the one I consume the most as a consumer.
Is Threads still a thing? It is a thing, right?
I think so. I'm not over there.
I was for the first thing. I get notifications every now and then that says this person started following you, but that's really it. I
think my thing still says I'm a Threadfluencer, which definitely not true.
Wow. How did you get that?
I set it up. I just put it that. Oh, it's nothing. It's just a made up title of I just started. I was like, I'm here. I'm staking my claim in the ground. And then there's one time. Do you remember a thing called? I think it might have been about Meso days. There's a platform called Meerkat. Do you remember that one?
No, I don't.
It was like
like Meerkat or Meerkat.
Like MEER, like the little Lion King little guy.
No.
And then it was Periscope.
Oh yeah,
Also, they
yeah.
had
Oh yeah, I remember
like live
Periscope.
video, like
Yeah.
streaming
Yeah, I
video.
remember that.
And for about 24 hours, not very long, but I was like, they had a leaderboard, and I was like number 6 in the world on Meerkat. This is like the
Wow.
first week because I was just like live streaming my life. Like this is
Oh
before I
my
had
gosh,
kids,
too funny.
maybe a fiance. I don't remember if we were. Um, and I think it was like I was right behind Shaq. Like it was like I don't know
Whoa.
if it was. I don't think the Kardashians were early there, but it was somebody like Shaq and then John Meyer for like a day.
That's so funny. That's so funny.
So I was big on Meerkat.
I remember when Twitter launched, and I remember like you were this number, this particular number, and I kept thinking, my gosh, I'm like 11,000, blah blah blah. Not really. It was like way higher than that, but
User number,
yeah, I remember that part, and I'm thinking, wow, it was cool. I wish I used Twitter more. I just don't. I do not. I wish I did, but
and
or it's
that
not
was
even
always
Twitter
my
anymore.
answer.
It's X,
And
whatever.
that was always my answer. I've learned a lot. I've made really great lifelong friends. I've made money on Twitter, but like, it's not a very great place anymore. It's pretty toxic. And
yeah,
I was teased Tenhaken. Do you remember he and the Argus Leader did a social media all stars in like 2010?
I do.
The Argus Leader did this like award show, and it was King and Queen of social media.
Yep,
There was like biggest fail, or there's like I don't remember what all the words were. It was like Corey Myers and Tenhaken did it, and I won King of social media, and then they never did another award show again. So I got the crown still here, and I'm not taking it off until anyone dethrones me.
Oh my gosh, isn't that funny? I wish I was hipper when it comes to some social media stuff. I'd like to think I am, but there's so many things. I bet my kid my oldest just started Snapchat. I just allowed it just recently, which is, I think, the worst thing. But they don't even exchange, like as a boyfriend or girlfriend, you don't even exchange phone numbers anymore or anything. It's just your snaps. That's the snaps.
Yeah, I don't do Snap.
So he'll just snap somebody over at the gym and he's like, look at who I just met. And this is who this new person is. And I'm thinking, my gosh, there's just so many. But I think he has like 100 and some thousand snaps, and he just started snapping just recently. And like, but they snap everything 3 times when they're in the car, of their feet, of this person sitting here, of the steering wheel. Oh, everything, John. There's so many things that are snapped these days. It's just the oddest thing out there. But
I will say, just yesterday, the Surgeon General said or urged the government to consider warning labels on social media. And I know we're talking a lot about social media, but I want to put it on air that I firmly agree with that. Like, I think I'm very grateful that I think us at our age, like we sort of have lived both lives, right? Like, I could tell you, like Jordan Paula's, my neighbor, like his mom and dad's phone number, and I barely know my wife's cell phone, right? Like the middle school phone numbers of like my 5 buddies in the neighborhood. So I remember life before the internet. But yet I feel like I can kind of understand technology. I wouldn't claim to be like a whiz, but and so I do think we are now sort of learning the repercussions of the last 10, 15 years of these tools. And I'm hoping society, I'm always a big optimist. And I think young people are always like, I don't ever dunk on these other generations because like they're special in their own way. I think it'll swing back and they'll figure this out. But I think it's pretty definitive, like as a parent, hold off on the cell phone as long as you can.
Oh gosh, I know. It's a lot.
But I can't imagine how hard it is with 14-year-old.
No, and it is. And I think there is, I mean, as you know, we've got bullying, we've got people that are taking their own lives because of things that are seen or that they see, and all the comparisons. And there's just so much out there. And yeah, I would agree with all of that as well. I think there's a time and a purpose. And yes, you and I have built businesses through social media. And I think our reach is great from a branding perspective, from a company perspective, but there's right ways and wrong ways. And when I observe those things, and yes, I am probably a little helicopter mom, and it still is hard to be able to see some of those things, but it's also like, it's another thing too, is like spelling words. We had a conversation with Calvin's teacher just at the end of the year. They voice text everything. Kids don't even know how to spell words because there's so much voice texting that's going on. So it's other little things like that it's, now I sound like an old parent. now I'm that one, but yeah, it is what it is. But
well, and it goes back to like, bringing our kids to these events. Like, it's, I'm not ignorant to think I'm just going to like eliminate technology from their life. Like they need to learn how to use this stuff, but they also then see us interact face to face with these people and give hugs and invest in the community and try to give a platform to people that maybe don't have one, and like all these other things that we stand for. Right. So, that's another good reason for getting involved. Is letting your kids see it.
Well, I appreciated our time today.
Yeah, it was fun. We were kind of winding.
We are winding, but before we go, I have a question here in this fun deck of cards that we always end every episode with just a random question. So Ariana, our producer, has just a variety of questions in this deck. I honestly have not read any of them.
Not setting me up. Okay.
No, I have not read a single one of them. And sometimes I have answered, I think, a couple of them if the guest has asked me it, but if this is not a question I'm not comfortable with answering, I don't know. We'll see. But I'm going to ask you your question, okay?
Okay, here we go.
Oh, this is a good one. How early do you arrive to the airport? Are you an early one or are you just flying in at the last minute?
Yeah, I'm like 40 to 45 minutes at the Sioux Falls airport, probably, which drives my wife nuts. But
yeah, I could see that. I like to be there early as well. You just never know. You never know, John Meyer.
What's early to me? What's early to you? Sorry.
I would probably say at least like when they open the gates 2 hours beforehand.
No way. In Sioux Falls?
Not in Sioux Falls. No, not in Sioux Falls. But I do like to arrive early. I would say in Sioux Falls at least an hour, maybe a little more.
I mean, in those January days when you're kind of questioning why we live here.
Yeah, correct.
And then you get dropped off at the airport.
Yeah.
And like 4 minutes later, you're at your seat. I'm like,
I know.
Yeah.
Those are the great things. Those are good.
The parking lot thing is a little bit of a mess right now.
I know. I fly out on Monday. I'm going to head to Chicago for an event. And yeah, just early morning flights, though, are fun. And that's a nice part, too, about, early morning, get on, get out. But I still will be there earlier than anybody else, truly. Even from our team's perspective, they're like, why? Why is she there? We're not waiting for her at the gate. We're going. So
do you do this where like, I can't take the Midwesterner out of me? Like we talk about weather for an hour. Or when I get to the Sioux Falls airport, I always am like, who's the person that I know? I got to find somebody that I know.
That's me. Like, I find the people I know.
Whether you're flying back or two, there's always somebody.
There's somebody. Well, thank you again for joining me. I appreciate it. It's good conversation, friend. Always. Funny, I haven't seen you in real life. Well, no, I saw you last month, but I was going to say, funny, I don't see you in real life for many months, and now I get to see you.
Ships crossing in the night.
But well, thank you again for joining us.
Thanks, Addie.
Just as a reminder, be sure to check us out every other Thursday. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. But thanks for joining in this week. Bye. Thanks for listening to this episode of Uncorked and Unscripted. Make sure to follow and rate this podcast wherever you're watching or listening. Stay connected with us by following us on social media at Uncorked Unscripted on Instagram and Facebook, and at Uncork Unscript on Twitter and TikTok. And if you really enjoyed this episode, do us a huge favor and send it to a friend. See you soon. Bye.